Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. The setting sun painted long shadows across Dalton's oak desk, turning the stack of expense reports into a landscape of light and shadow. His office chair creaked as he leaned back, rubbing his tired eyes. He had worked straight through dinner again. The usual sounds of their two-story suburban home were absent. No TV noise from downstairs, no clicking of Wren's laptop keys, no music from her beloved vintage record player. The silence felt heavy, meaningful somehow. Dalton's fingers brushed against the gold band on his left hand, a habit developed over 8 years of marriage. Each touch brought memories of their wedding day when Wren was radiant in white. He recalled their first house and her triumphant smile as she hung the sold sign. Countless small moments had built their life together, but lately, something had changed. The comfortable silence they once shared had grown sharp-edged, filled with unsaid words. Wren's smile no longer reached her eyes, and her absences were more frequent than her presence. His phone buzzed with a text from Sterling, one of their oldest friends. "Hey man, is the quarterly report killing you?" Dalton frowned. He had not mentioned the report to Wren. He couldn't recall the last time they discussed work beyond surface pleasantries. He typed a non-committal response and stood up. His joints protested from long hours at his desk. The hardwood floors creaked under his feet as he made his way downstairs. Wren's car sat in the driveway, yet the house felt empty. He called out, "Wren." His voice echoed in the quiet space. "Sorry about dinner. Got caught up in work." He found her in the kitchen, perched on a bar stool at their granite island. The overhead lights were off, and only the dying sunlight illuminated her. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, with stray strands catching the light like threads of gold. She did not look up when he entered. "Everything okay?" he asked as he moved closer. He noted an untouched glass of water, and her fingers tracing patterns on the smooth countertop. Her engagement ring, the one they had picked together at a tiny antique shop in Vermont, caught the light, sending prisms dancing across the walls. "We need to talk," she said softly, her voice hesitant yet carrying an undercurrent that tightened Dalton's chest. He pulled out the adjacent stool. Its metal feet scraped against the tile floor, the sound too loud in the quiet kitchen. "What's wrong?" he asked. Wren looked up, and to his surprise, a controlled, practiced smile tugged at her lips, unlike her usual warm grin. "Nothing's wrong. Actually," she continued, taking a deep breath as her fingers stilled on the counter, "I'm pregnant." The word hit Dalton like a physical force, a simple word that tore his world apart. His mind raced through the past few months, recalling their increasingly rare intimate moments and growing distance. Something wasn't adding up. He began to speak but then stopped. When was the last time they had been together? His long hours at the office and her frequent nights out with Marlowe and Sterling meant they barely saw each other. The realization struck him with brutal clarity. It had been over a month, maybe longer. Wren watched him intently, her blue eyes bright with an unreadable emotion. "I know we weren't trying, but sometimes the best things just happen, right?" "When?" he asked sharply. "When did you find out?" "Just today." She reached for his hand, her fingers cool against his skin. "I took a test this morning after you left for work. I couldn't wait to tell you." Dalton let her take his hand, but his mind raced, calculating dates and possibilities. He cleared his throat to keep his voice steady. "When do you think it happened?" Something flickered across Wren's face, so quickly he almost missed it. Was it annoyance? Worry? Then she began laughing, the sound too bright and too rehearsed. "Oh, honey, you know how these things go. It must have been that night after Rowan's birthday party. Remember, we both had a bit too much wine," she said. The memory of Rowan's party struck him with crystal clarity. He had left early with a migraine and driven himself home while Wren stayed behind. She hadn't come home until nearly 3 in the morning, claiming she crashed at Sterling's place. The next day, when he mentioned calling Sterling to thank her, Wren quickly changed the subject. "Right," he said, carefully neutral. Wren squeezed his hand and hopped off the stool with sudden energy. "I'm thinking we should celebrate. Maybe call Quinn's and see if they can fit us in for dinner, or we could order in. Open that bottle of champagne we've been saving." She moved around the kitchen like a hummingbird, full of nervous energy. Her words washed over him as he sat frozen in place. Every casual mention of their friends, Quinn, Marlowe, Sterling, now carried new weight. How many of them knew? How many had helped her keep her secrets? He cut in. "I'm not feeling great. I might be coming down with something." He forced a smile that felt like broken glass. "Rain check on the celebration." Wren's face fell slightly, but she recovered too quickly. "Of course, honey, you've been working so hard lately." She crossed the kitchen to kiss his cheek, her new perfume wrapped around him like a question mark. "I'll let you rest. I promised Marlowe I'd meet her for coffee anyway. She's having drama with Lauren again." This late, Dalton glanced at his watch. Nearly 9. "Just a quick catch-up. You know, Marlowe, she's always in crisis mode." Wren was already grabbing her purse from the counter, checking her phone with practiced casualness. "Don't wait up if you're not feeling well." He watched her leave, listened as her car started and pulled away. Only then did he exhale the breath he'd been holding. Rising slowly, he walked to their shared home office and opened his laptop. With mechanical precision, he pulled up their calendar, scrolling through the past few months. The last time they'd been intimate was marked in his mind, a rare Sunday morning when both schedules aligned. 6 weeks ago, it had felt like a reconnection after weeks of distance. For a moment, the old warmth had returned. He thought maybe things were getting better, but he was certain nothing had happened since then. No drunken night after Rowan's party. No forgotten encounter could explain this. It meant either his wife was lying, or something was amiss. His hand shook slightly as he opened a new browser tab. He typed early pregnancy symptoms and began reading, making mental notes of timelines and possibilities. A sick feeling grew in his stomach as the pieces refused to align. His phone buzzed. A text from Wren. "Don't forget to take something for that bug. Love you." Dalton stared at the message. The casual endearment that once warmed him now felt like evidence. Another calculation that didn't add up. He opened their text history, scrolling through weeks of surface-level affection, and no real connection. He then switched to their photos from recent months. There she was at Rowan's party, her arm around Sterling, both glamorous in cocktail dresses. In the background, he glimpsed a tall man in a dark suit, watching Wren with obvious interest. He zoomed in, trying to make out details, but the figure remained unclear. More photos followed, group shots at restaurants and nights out that occurred with increasing frequency. With his new lens of suspicion, he noticed details he had missed before. Wren was always slightly separate from the group, and there was an occasional masculine figure in the background. Her phone, always clutched close or conspicuously absent, appeared in one photo that caught his attention. A group shot from last month at Quinn's restaurant opening. Wren stood near the bar, laughing at something off camera. Her body was angled away from the group towards someone just out of frame. The next photo was blurry, as if taken while turning away, but he could make out a man's hand on Wren's lower back. The sound of a car door slamming startled him. He quickly closed the laptop as headlights swept across the office window. Wren was home already. He checked the time. It was nearly 11. He had lost himself in his investigation for hours until he heard her key in the lock, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She was humming something light and happy that made his chest ache, the same tune she had been humming lately. "Still up?" she asked from the doorway, cheeks flushed. "I thought you weren't feeling well." "Couldn't sleep." He managed a weak smile. "How's Marlowe?" She replied, waving a hand dismissively. "Everything's a drama. I'm gonna shower and head to bed soon. Just need to finish something here." She blew him a kiss and disappeared down the hall. Soon, he heard the shower running and her voice singing that same unfamiliar tune. Dalton reopened the laptop and pulled up their bank statements. He began scanning transactions, looking for patterns and anything unusual. There were restaurant charges he didn't recognize, hotel parking fees on days she claimed to be shopping, and small withdrawals that added up significantly. A pattern emerged every Thursday for 3 months. There was a charge from a coffee shop across town, always around 2 in the afternoon, always exactly $12.50. 2 drinks, he realized. Then the shower shut off. He quickly closed everything and erased his browser history out of habit. As he headed upstairs, he heard Ren's phone chime with a message. She snatched it up quickly, angling the screen away as he entered their bedroom. "Worse stuff," she said without looking up. "You know how Reeves gets when he's on a deadline." Reeves, their mutual friend, ran the graphic design firm where Ren worked. Another piece didn't fit. Since when did Reeves message about work at midnight? "Right," Dalton said as he changed for bed. "How is Reeves these days? Have you seen him around much?" "Oh, busy as always," Ren replied, placing her phone face down on the nightstand. "You should come to lunch with us sometime. The whole office misses you." He made a non-committal sound as he slid under the covers. Ren curled up next to him. Her familiar lavender scent now mixed with something else, something new. Her hand slipped across his chest, but he feigned a cough. "Still not feeling great," he murmured. "Probably better not to risk getting you sick, especially now." Ren withdrew her hand and rolled to her side. "Good night, honey. Good night." Dalton lay awake long after Ren's breathing had evened out. His mind raced through the past few months, examining every moment with new suspicion. The weekend trip she'd taken with Marlowe to visit Sterling's beach house. Had that been real? The late nights at the office working on Reeves' big project. What project required midnight text messages? He rolled onto his side, watching Ren sleep in the dim light from the window. She looked peaceful, innocent, the same woman he had fallen in love with 8 years ago. But was she? Had she ever been who he thought she was? The next morning brought a semblance of normalcy that felt like a cruel joke. Ren made coffee, chattering about her plans for the day while Dalton pretended to read the news on his tablet. "I might be late tonight," she said, stirring cream into her coffee. "Quarterly review meetings with clients. You know how Reeves likes to be thorough, right?" Dalton kept his voice neutral. "Which clients?" he asked after a barely noticeable pause. "Oh, the usual suspects. Tatum's boutique and that new restaurant Quinn is consulting for." She glanced at her phone. "Speaking of which, I should get going. Don't want to be late," she said, kissing his cheek, a gesture that once felt natural but now seemed choreographed. She headed for the door. Dalton waited until he heard her car pull away before opening his laptop. The company website for Reeves' design studio loaded quickly. He found Ren's profile, her professional smile beaming back at him. But it was the client page that caught his attention. Neither Tatum's boutique nor Quinn's restaurant appeared in the extensive list. His phone buzzed with a text from Sterling. "Hey, got time for coffee? Need to talk about something." 10 minutes later, Dalton sat across from Sterling at their usual coffee shop. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup sleeve. "I ran into Marlowe yesterday," Sterling began, not meeting his eyes. "She mentioned something about a beach trip with Ren last month." Dalton's hand tightened around his cup. "The weekend at your beach house?" he asked. Sterling's face fell. "That's what I thought." Dalton said, "I haven't been to my beach house in months. It's been rented out all summer." The confirmation hit him like a physical blow, even though he had suspected as much. "I see. There's more." Sterling leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Last week at Quinn's new place, I saw Ren there, but she wasn't alone. She was with someone I didn't recognize, a man. They looked close." "Did you get his name?" Dalton asked. Sterling shook her head. "No, but they left together, and it wasn't the first time I've seen them. The coffee turned bitter in his mouth. "How long?" he asked. "I don't know for sure, but there have been rumors at Reed's office. People talk, you know," Sterling replied. She hesitated. Lately, they'd been talking about more than one person. Dalton set his cup down carefully, his hand steady despite the storm inside him. "Thank you for telling me. I should have said something sooner. I just wasn't sure, and Wren has been my friend for so long." Sterling's voice cracked slightly. "But you deserve to know the truth." Back at his office, Dalton threw himself into work, trying to focus on anything but Sterling's revelations. But every few minutes, his mind wandered back to Wren's announcement. Pregnant. The word felt like acid now. His phone lit up with a text from Wren. "Feeling any better? Might grab dinner with the team after the client meetings. Don't wait up." Another lie. Another night of work that was anything but normal. He opened their shared photo album, scrolling through months of memories with new eyes. They were at Rowan's birthday. The mysterious man in the background appeared in several photos, always watching Wren, always just out of focus. The next week passed in a blur of careful observation and mounting evidence. Dalton noticed how Wren's phone was always face down now, and how she took calls in another room. Her voice dropped to whispers when he passed by one morning. He caught her deleting messages before she got in the shower. She claimed she was just clearing out old work emails. But he glimpsed the sender's name before the screen went dark. Lauren. Wasn't that Marlowe's ex? The one Wren claimed was causing drama. He filed the information away, another piece in the growing puzzle. The pregnancy symptoms started on schedule. Morning sickness struck when he was at work, and cravings led to unexplained absences. But Dalton noticed she never got sick when they were home in the mornings, nor did she need those midnight snack runs when he offered to go himself. "I'll grab it," she'd say with that new practiced smile. "Needs fresh air anyway." Fresh air at midnight, another lie added to the collection. Days later, after her announcement, Dalton left work early with a genuine headache. He planned to catch her off guard. When he walked into their kitchen, he found Wren's purse spilled across the counter, its contents scattered as if she'd left in a hurry. His eyes caught an orange prescription bottle partially hidden under her wallet. His hands trembled as he picked it up, reading the label once, twice, 3 times. A quick search on his phone made his blood run cold. It wasn't an antibiotic. It was specifically used to treat infections. The bottle slipped from his numb fingers, clattering across the counter. In that moment, all his suspicions crystallized into certainty. His wife wasn't just lying about the pregnancy's timing. She was living a completely separate life, one that had now put his health at risk. But he heard her car in the driveway and quickly replaced the bottle, retreating to his office before she entered. He heard her humming that same tune he now realized he had never heard before all this began. "Dalton," she called, "your car's here. Are you home early?" He took a deep breath and called back from the office, "Just finishing up some work." "Well, come down when you're done. I made plans with Quinn and Tatum for dinner. I thought we could all celebrate the baby news." More lies, more deception. But Dalton didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, he opened his laptop and began a new search. Divorced lawyers near me. The next morning, he made an appointment with his doctor for a full infection panel. The nurse's sympathetic look told him she understood without words. That evening, Wren was working late again. Dalton sat in their home office, methodically documenting everything. Bank statements with suspicious charges, screenshots of deleted messages, photos with mysterious figures, and the prescription bottle he had photographed in the shower. His phone buzzed with another text from Sterling. "She's at Quinn's right now with him. I'm so sorry, Dalton." He saved the message, another piece of evidence. He opened his email and began composing a message to the city's most ruthless divorce attorney. "Let Wren think she has me fooled. Let her believe in her perfect deception while I build my case. Let her play happy family while I gather proof that will tear her carefully constructed lies apart." One thing was certain. Dalton would never forgive this. Neither the lies, the betrayal, nor the casual way she risked his health and happiness. She had made her choice. Now he would make his. He heard her keys in the lock on the stairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood. A sound that no longer held any warmth, but marked the entrance of a stranger wearing his wife's face. 3 weeks after Wren's pregnancy announcement, Dalton sat in his parked car outside Quinn's restaurant, watching the evening crowd filter in. The setting sun cast long shadows across the parking lot, turning Wren's silver car into a ghostly silhouette. She had told him she was working late at the office. Another lie. His phone buzzed. Sterling's name flashed on the screen. "Give me details," Dalton said without preamble. Back at the corner table near the wine room, Sterling's voice was tight and professional. "Wren arrived 10 minutes ago. Reeves was already there with someone I don't recognize." "Describe him." "Dark hair, expensive suit, a Rolex, a gold band. The way he carries himself like old money, probably from a family business," she described, then paused. "Dalton, the way they're acting. This isn't the first time. Send me a photo if you can," Sterling added. His voice remained steady and controlled. "And Sterling, I need to know, how long have you suspected?" he asked. "I started noticing things about 2 months ago. Little things, like the way she'd check her phone or leave rooms to take calls." "Why tell me now?" he asked. "Because," Sterling's voice cracked slightly, "yesterday I saw them together at the Grand Hotel. Not just talking or flirting. They were intimate." Dalton's grip tightened on his phone, yet his voice remained level. "Time?" he asked. 10:30, came the reply. "They were there for almost an hour." "Thank you. I should have said something sooner." "You're saying it now. That's what matters," he said. His phone buzzed with an incoming photo. The image showed Wren laughing, her hand on someone's arm. The man's face was turned away, but Dalton recognized his watch from before. In the background of those party photos, the restaurant's front door opened. Marlowe stepped out, phone pressed to her ear, pacing near Dalton's car without noticing him. Her voice was sharp and angry. "I don't care what Lauren says," she snapped. "Wren can't keep this up forever. One of these days, Dalton's going to find out." Then came a pause. "No, I won't cover for her again. The pregnancy thing is too far. It's getting messy." Dalton's jaw clenched. So Marlowe knew, had probably known all along. He started recording on his phone, capturing her words as evidence. "Look," Marlowe continued, unaware of his audience, "she needs to pick one. Either Lauren or the new guy. Playing both sides is going to blow up in her face." After another pause, she said, "No, I haven't told Reeves yet, but he's not stupid. He must suspect something's going on in his own office." His phone lit up with a text from Wren. "Working late tonight. Honey, don't wait up." He replied with his usual casual, unconcerned tone, letting her think she had him fooled. He had learned to play his part well over the past weeks. Inside his briefcase lay a manila folder thick with evidence. Bank statements showing suspicious charges, phone records with call patterns, and surveillance photos from the PI he had hired. But it wasn't enough. He needed more, needed to understand the full scope of her betrayal. "Sterling," he said into the phone, "I need you to do something for me. Anything. Join them. Make up an excuse. Say you were meeting someone who stood you up. I want to know what they talk about when they think no one's listening. Give me 5 minutes." Dalton watched as Sterling emerged from her car across the lot, straightening her dress before walking into Quinn's. Through the windows, he saw her approach Wren's table with casual ease. There were seemingly surprised greetings and an invitation to join them. His phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Wren." Lauren was getting nervous. "Good. Let them all start to sweat," the message read. The next morning, Wren was cheerful at breakfast, chatting about nursery colors and baby names, as if nothing was wrong. As if she hadn't spent the previous night playing happy couple with her secret lover. I was thinking about names, she said, stirring her tea with practiced nonchalance. What do you think about? Dalton cut in. Let's have dinner together tonight. It's been too long since we had a proper date night. Something flickered in Wren's eyes. Panic, fear. Oh, honey, I wish I could, but Reeves has a client presentation tomorrow. I already called Quinn's and made a reservation for 7. Dalton washed her face carefully. Wren's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She reached for it, but Dalton was faster. Unknown number. Seems important. They called 3 times this morning. Probably a client. Wren replied casually, "You know how they get with deadlines." Then she added, "You should answer it." He held out the phone. Wouldn't want to keep them waiting. She took the phone, letting it go to voicemail. "I'll call back later. Tell me more about dinner. What made you think of Quinn's?" "Sterling mentioned she saw you there yesterday," Dalton said. Dalton watched Wren's face pale slightly. "They said you were having lunch with Reeves. A business meeting." "Yes, exactly." Wren recovered quickly, though her hand shook as she picked up her tea. "Just going over the presentation details," she explained. "Must be some presentation," Dalton said neutrally. "To need so many meetings." "What do you mean?" "Your calendar shows 3 meetings with Reeves, this week alone. All at Quinn's." He paused. "Interesting choice of venue for work discussions. Quinn gives us a good business rate." Wren stood abruptly. "I should get ready for work." Dalton smiled pleasantly. 7 tonight. Don't forget." Once she left, he called Sterling. "I need everything from last night. Every word, every gesture. It's worse than we thought." Sterling's voice was grim. "The man's name is Hawthorne. Old money, like I guessed. But Dalton, he's not the only one. Tell me." "Lauren was there too later. After I left, Quinn's security cameras caught him entering through the back." Sterling continued, pausing. "I have a friend who works there. She got me the footage." "Send it to me. Everything you have," she said. "There's something else. When Hawthorne left, I followed him. He went straight to the Grand Hotel," Sterling said. Dalton ran into him there an hour later, his free hand clenched into a fist. "Time?" he asked. 10:30, came the reply. "She was there until midnight. The same time she texted me about working late." "Quinn knows," Sterling continued. "He's been covering for her, giving them private rooms and sending away other guests who might recognize her." "I see," Dalton said, his voice icy. "Anyone else involved?" he asked. "Marlowe's been running interference, making excuses, providing alibis for you and Reeves," Sterling replied, hesitating. "I think he's more than just a boss helping hide her affairs." "Meaning?" Dalton pressed. "The way he looked at her last night. It wasn't professional." Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The late-night texts, the constant work meetings, and the fact that Reeves had stopped coming to their house for dinner. Dalton instructed, "Keep watching. I want to know everyone involved, every detail." At exactly 7 that evening, they sat across from each other at Quinn's. Dalton had requested the same table where Wren had sat with Hawthorne the night before. Wren's discomfort was visible as she slid into her seat. "Nice table," Dalton commented. "Good view of the whole restaurant," Wren replied. "I suppose," she added, glancing at her phone. "Expecting someone?" "Just checking the time," she said. Her smile was brittle. "You know how Reeves gets about tomorrow's presentation." "Right. The presentation," Dalton replied, taking a slow sip of water. "Which client is it for again?" A slight pause. "Tatum's Boutique. They're rebranding." "Funny," Dalton cut in, his voice level. "I had lunch with Tatum yesterday. She didn't mention any rebranding." The color drained from Wren's face. "I meant, don't." His tone was soft, but final. "Just don't." Quinn appeared at their table with his usual friendly smile, strained. His eyes darted between them, sensing the tension. "Can I get you started with some drinks?" he asked. Wine for me, Wren said quickly. Red, whatever you recommend. Water, Dalton said, not taking his eyes off his wife. I want to stay clear-headed. We have so much to discuss. Quinn retreated hastily, leaving thick tension in the air. Wren's phone buzzed again. This time, Dalton caught a glimpse of the name. Lauren. Wasn't Lauren causing drama with Marlowe? He asked innocently. Funny how he has your number. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Wren? Because I'm thinking quite a lot these days. Dalton leaned forward. About late nights at the office, about meetings at Quinn's, about room 412 at the Grand Hotel. Wren's glass slipped from her fingers, spilling water across the white tablecloth. You're following me, she demanded. Following implies movement, he replied with a razor-sharp smile. I just sat and watched. It's amazing what you see when you actually pay attention. Quinn rushed over with napkins, dabbing at the spilled water. Let me get you another glass, he offered. Dalton commanded quietly, but absolutely. Stay. I think we all need to clear the air, don't you, Quinn? Sir, I should really check on other tables, like the private room you gave my wife yesterday, Quinn stammered. Dalton's eyes never left Wren's face. The one where she met Hawthorne. Quinn froze, napkins clutched in trembling hands. Wren's face went from pale to ashen. How do you know his name? Dalton asked. The same way I know about Lauren. And Reeves, he added. Tell me, Quinn, do they all use the same private room? Or do you mix it up for variety? Dalton demanded. Dalton, please. Wren's voice shook. Not here. Why not here? It's where you conduct so much of your business, isn't it? Dalton turned to Quinn. Tell me, how many client meetings has my wife had in your private dining room? I don't get involved in. Quinn started. The truth, Dalton cut in. For once, someone tell me the truth. Or should I ask the security cameras? Quinn looked between them. Trapped. Nearby diners pretended not to listen, but the tension drew attention like moths to a flame. I just see people where they ask, Quinn said finally. It's not my place to warn a friend he's being betrayed. Dalton's laugh was hollow. No, I suppose it's not your place. Just like it wasn't Sterling's or Marlowe's or anyone else's who watched this happen. You don't understand, Wren pleaded. Oh, I understand perfectly. Dalton pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos. Here's what I understand. 3 weeks ago, you told me you were pregnant. Interesting timing. Considering we haven't been intimate in over 6 weeks. We were at Rowan's party when I left early with a migraine, and you stayed with him. He turned his phone, showing a zoomed-in photo of Hawthorne. The same man Wren met here yesterday, whose watch he recognized in every photo from the past 3 months. A glass shattered somewhere in the restaurant. Neither of them looked up. I can explain, Wren started. Can you explain this too? He pulled out a photo of the prescription bottle. Treatment for an infection, he asked. Wren, really? Were you ever going to tell me you put my health at risk? Quinn tried to retreat, but Dalton's voice stopped him. Stay, Quinn. You've been part of this show from the beginning. Might as well see the final. The Grand Hotel's lobby was quiet at this hour, with soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. Dalton approached the front desk, where a young man in a crisp uniform straightened at his approach. Room 412, Dalton said quietly. I believe my wife is expected. The clerk's eyes widened in recognition. Mr. Carter, that is. We can't. Dalton placed his credit card on the counter. Check my name against your records. I'm sure you'll find I'm the one paying the bills. A few keystrokes confirmed his words. The clerk's face paled as he saw months of charges, all neatly billed to Dalton's company. Sir, I should explain. No need, Dalton said coldly. But I will need the security footage, all of it. That's against policy, the clerk protested. Dalton produced $500 bills next to his credit card. Policy can be flexible, he said. While the clerk wrestled with his conscience, Sterling appeared from the hotel bar. Hawthorne's already here, she reported quietly. Arrived 10 minutes ago. Lawrence is in the parking lot. I think he's trying to warn her, Sterling added. Good, Dalton said. He checked his watch. Right on schedule. What are you going to do? Watch, Sterling replied. Dalton nodded to the clerk, who was copying files onto a USB drive. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves. His phone buzzed with messages from Marlo. You're making a mistake. Let her explain. Another text. Block Lauren. We need to talk. Then, block Reeves. Think about what you're doing. Dalton muttered, blocking his number. The elevator dinged. Wren emerged from the elevator, mascara streaked down her face. How did you know you'd come here? She asked. Dalton held up his phone, showing a text from Hawthorne. You're predictable. Wren, when things get tough, you run to your lovers. They're not safe. How did you know? Wren repeated, confused. Dalton turned to the clerk. What are you going to do with that? The clerk asked, referring to the USB drive. Everything, Dalton said quietly. Every meeting, every lie, every betrayal. It's all going to my lawyer. You can't. Expose your affairs. Wren stammered. Protect yourself. Dalton's laugh was bitter. Or did you think I would just accept another man's child as my own? The phone buzzed again. More texts. Lauren, he knows. Marlo just called Reeves. Get out of there. Now, Hawthorne, where are you? Everything okay? Better not keep them waiting, Dalton observed. I'm sure one of them is the father. Though at this point, who can tell? Wren's voice cracked. Please, we can fix this. Dalton straightened his jacket. Just a marriage built on lies. And a child that isn't mine. He pulled out his wallet and dropped several bills on the table. Dinner's on me, Quinn. Consider it payment for all the shows you've hosted. Quinn backed away, nearly tripping over his own feet, as other diners openly stared and phones recorded the scene. Oh, and Wren. Dalton paused. Don't bother coming home tonight. The locks have already been changed. Dalton pulled out another envelope. Restraining order. You come near me. My house, my office. You'll be arrested, he declared. You can't be serious, Hawthorne started. Try me, Dalton replied in a steel tone. That goes for all of you. Stay away from me, my property, my life. Whatever happens between you now is your problem, he said. He turned to leave, then paused. Lauren, I'd check the baby's eyes if I were you. That shade of blue reminds me of Hawthorne. Genetics are funny things, aren't they? The room erupted in chaos. Lauren lunging at Hawthorne, Reeves trying to intervene, Marlo screaming at Wren. The baby's cries rose above it all. Sterling waited in the hallway. Was that last part true? About the eyes? Does it matter? Dalton smiled coldly. Let them tear each other apart. What now? Sterling asked quietly. Now, Dalton said, straightening his jacket, I move on. Let them live with their choices, their lies, their betrayals. His voice hardened. Let them destroy each other. I'm done with all of them. The elevator doors opened. As they stepped in, Dalton could still hear the chaos from room 415, but it was no longer his problem. He had won by methodically exposing every lie, every betrayal, every secret they thought they'd kept. Let them face the consequences of their choices, he thought. He was walking away with his dignity, his assets, and the satisfaction of knowing he had destroyed them all, because some betrayals cannot be forgiven, and some revenge is best served cold, calculated, and complete. Lifting his head, Dalton murmured as he left, what they've built with their lies will crumble on its own. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.